For the longest time, people talked about Project MKUltra like it was some wild conspiracy theory. But here's the thing, it's not a theory, it's real. We have the documents. This is the true, factual story of the CIA's top-secret program to control the human mind.
So let's set the scene. It's New York City, November 28, 1953. Early morning, still dark out. And then suddenly, a CIA scientist, a brilliant guy named Dr. Frank Olson, plunges from a 10th floor hotel window. The official story that came out was simple, tragic, and, as we now know, a complete lie. They called it a suicide. But the truth? Oh, the truth was way, way more disturbing. See, what nobody knew at the time was that just 10 days before he died, Olson's own colleagues had secretly dosed him with LSD. So his death wasn't just some random tragedy. No way. It was the first thread that, when pulled, would unravel one of the most terrifying secret government programs in history.
So let's start right there with this mysterious death. To really understand the sheer scale of what the CIA was up to, we have to dig into the story of Frank Olson. His death is the key that unlocks this whole hidden world. Okay, so for over 20 years, the CIA stuck to their story. The official line was, Frank Olson had a sudden mental breakdown and tragically took his own life. End of story. But the real truth, the one buried in their own secret files, was that his paranoia and distress were caused by them. They drugged him with LSD as part of an experiment he never agreed to. It's the perfect snapshot of how the program worked, a clean story for the public and a horrifying reality behind closed doors.
So that begs the question, right? What was this secret program that Frank Olson was part of? Well, his death connects us to something way bigger. A sprawling, top-secret government project that operated in the shadows for decades.
It was called Project MKUltra. And you've got to remember what was going on at the time. This was the peak of the Cold War. The CIA was absolutely terrified that the Soviets were developing brainwashing techniques to use on captured American soldiers. So what was their response? To start their own program and win the race for control of the human mind, no matter what the cost.
And what's wild is that for years, this was all just rumor. But then, investigators started unearthing declassified documents like this one, providing undeniable proof. And what they revealed was a set of goals far more sinister than just getting prisoners to spill their secrets.
I mean, look at this list. This isn't from a spy movie script. This is a direct wish list of objectives from declassified MKUltra documents. They were trying to figure out how to discredit people by making them act illogically, how to erase memories, how to fundamentally change someone's personality, and even cause paralysis. This was the CIA's shopping list for the ultimate tools of covert control.
So if those are the goals, you've got to ask yourself, who were they testing these methods on? The answer to that question is where this story goes from deeply disturbing to just plain evil.
And before we get into that, let's get one thing crystal clear. The Nuremberg Code. It's the international ethical standard for human experiments, and it says right there that voluntary consent is absolutely essential. It was created in 1947, that's 6 years before MKUltra even got started, so the world had already drawn a very clear line in the sand. The CIA knew the rules, they just chose to ignore them.
And if you want to see just how much they ignored those rules, look no further than Operation Midnight Climax. I'm not making that name up. The CIA literally set up fake brothels. They paid prostitutes to bring men back to these safe houses, secretly dosed their drinks with LSD, and then agents would just sit behind two-way mirrors and watch what happened, taking notes. These were American citizens, drugged and observed without their knowledge, lab rats.
And those men in the safe houses were just one part of a much bigger, much more disturbing pattern. The vast majority of MKUltra's test subjects were people from the margins of society. We're talking prisoners, drug addicts, mental patients. The CIA specifically targeted these vulnerable people because in their view, they had no credibility, they couldn't fight back. It was a cold, calculated strategy.
And the scale of this was just staggering. This wasn't a few rogue agents in a basement. We're talking about 149 separate sub-projects. They were working through 80 different institutions, hospitals, research foundations, and maybe the most shocking part, 44 American universities were conducting secret research for the CIA. This was a massive institutional effort, hidden in plain sight all across the country.
Of course, a program this big and this illegal couldn't stay a secret forever. And when the walls started closing in, the CIA's first priority wasn't to come clean or make things right. It was to burn the evidence.
And don't take my word for it. This is a direct quote from the man who ordered it, CIA Director Richard Helms.
He admitted under oath that he had the MKUltra records destroyed. And his reason? Not national security. He did it to prevent embarrassment. The entire history of the program was supposed to be wiped out just to save face. It's just incredible.
But here's the twist. They messed up. In the rush to destroy everything, they missed something. Thousands of financial documents survived, all because they'd been misfiled. So in the end, it was the boring paperwork, the money trail, that made it impossible for the CIA to deny the program ever existed. The great cover-up was foiled by a clerical error. You can't make this stuff up.
So, the discovery of these surviving documents kicked off a chain reaction that would finally drag the secrets of MKUltra into the light, leaving a permanent scar on the public's trust in its own government.
In 1977, using those financial records as a starting point, a Freedom of Information Act request blew the whole thing wide open. This led to televised Senate hearings where, for the first time, top CIA officials were forced to sit there and publicly admit to decades of secret human experimentation.
This timeline really puts it all into perspective. You see the ethical rules, the Nuremberg Code, established way back in '47. Then MKUltra starts and runs for years. But look at the end there. It wasn't until 1991, nearly 2 decades after MKUltra was exposed, that the government finally adopted the common rule to protect people in research. That rule exists today because of this scandal. And in the end, this quote from the final Senate report really says it all. The program wasn't just a scientific failure or an ethical lapse, it was a fundamental betrayal. The very institution meant to protect its citizens had actively used them as unwitting guinea pigs. The story of Project MKUltra is just a chilling reminder of what can happen when fear and secrecy are allowed to operate without any oversight. And it forces us to ask a question that's just as relevant today as it was then. A government is built on a sacred trust with its people. So what happens when that trust is broken?